At 6:18 a.m., my doorbell cam pinged. Person at driveway. I expected a jogger. Instead, I watched our HOA's favorite visor march up with a wheelbarrow, grab 3 arm-thick logs from my racked stack behind the fence, and toss them in like she was loading a cannon. For the 3rd time in 2 weeks, I stepped onto the porch and said, "Morning, Diane. That's my firewood." "It's community debris," she said. "Rules say no piles visible from the street." "It's behind my fence," I said. "And it's seasoned oak, not debris." She rolled away. I rolled my eyes. And by sunset, she'd roll those logs one more time, right as they cracked open to reveal bright neon foam and a trail the police could literally follow. Important note. In story and in life, don't booby-trap anything. Don't make dangerous pranks. The foam logs in this story were fully cured, purely decoy, and not for burning, just messy proof to stop a petty thief and protect property. Safety first. Paper and pixels win. The stack, the rule, the grab's eye. Split and stack wood the way my granddad taught me. Ends cut square, bark facing out, stacked on rails 4 inches off the ground so air can do its magic. We host neighbors on Fridays in fall. S'mores, stories, the crackle soundtrack of my entire personality. On move-in, I checked the CC&Rs. No unsightly debris visible from street. Fair. My rack sits behind a side fence, invisible unless you're committed to peeking, but commitment is exactly what Diane does best. 2 weeks after I stacked a new cord, 3 logs disappeared. I assumed a teenager prank. Then 3 more went missing on a Wednesday. The 3rd time, my doorbell cam caught her. Visor, clipboard, wheelbarrow. She lifted the latch, walked in, like she owned the zip code and helped herself. I emailed the property manager, Carla. Beige Tone replied, "Cords of wood must not be visible. The board will remove any non-compliant piles. It's behind a fence," I wrote back, attaching 2 photos from the street. "And it's not the boards to remove." "Nevertheless," Carla replied. Translation: she'd hit send and started her day. I filed a non-emergency police report for theft of firewood because words matter and so do case numbers. The dispatcher asked for value. I said, "Seasoned oak, $270 for what's gone." She said, "You'd be surprised how often we hear this." I installed a simple trail cam by the stack for redundant angles. Redundant angles is just my love. Language. The talk and the line in the bark. When the grabs didn't stop, I went to the next board meeting. I brought photos, the street view, no wood visible, the latch, closed, and the wheelbarrow of shame. "Racks must be screened, Diane," said chin high. "This is enforcement." "You're beyond screening," I said. "You're taking property." "We're tidying," she said. "This is a community." "Communities have property lines," I said, and held up the plat and a city code printout that I highlighted like finals week. "Entering a fenced side yard without permission? That's trespass. Removing property? That's theft. There's no HOA exception line in there." A quieter board member asked, "Then how do we enforce?" "Not by touching," I said. "You send notice. You have a hearing. You cite the rule. You don't run a firewood repo." Diane sniffed. "We'll see you at the hearing." "Great," I said. "Bring your wheelbarrow." The foam that ate a plan, safely. I'm not interested in revenge. I am very interested in boundaries and in harmless receipts. So I did 3 boring legal things. I posted a small sign on the inside of my gate. Private property, do not remove materials, recording. Not a threat, just information. I added bright invisible UV dye on the ends of a few outer logs. Under a black light, it marks hands and the inside of a wheelbarrow. It's used in loss prevention all the time. I created decoy logs for the top of the stack using fully cured expanding foam and bark sleeves from a rotten round. Lightweight, harmless, not for burning, and very, very obvious once cracked. No pressure, no chemicals, no anything that could hurt somebody. Just Messy and unmistakable. And yes, I made sure the cured foam wasn't leaving residue on soil or storm drains. Safety and environment first. Then I waited with pancakes and a patient's face. At 6:16 a.m., 2 days later, the visor approached like it owed her money. She popped the latch, reached for the showpiece logs, and hefted them like trophies. One bounced weird, too light, and split at the seam. Neon foam winked from the inside like a highlighter had fallen in love with a marshmallow. She stared. She tossed it into the wheelbarrow anyway. The trail cam caught every frame. So did the UV dye on her gloves. The trail and the talk I called. The same non-emergency number and said, "Hey, it's me, Case Niao." The thief just returned with a wheelbarrow. "We have new footage. Low priority. Just asking for a patrol car to confirm ID." 2 officers rolled up 10 minutes later, polite as lunch. One watched the clip from my phone, while the other followed literally a breadcrumb path of neon foam flakes from my rack to the HOA's clubhouse patio, where the wheelbarrow sat like a guilty conscience. A blob of neon glowed under the eave, and the officer's black light lit up the handles like a rave. We walked up to Diane, who was rearranging wood by a community fire pit sign that had been printed on a home inkjet 5 minutes earlier. "Morning," the officer said. "We're here about a property complaint." "This is community property," she said, without turning. "He dumped debris." "Ma'am," the officer said, black light haloing the wheelbarrow. "This is marked from his yard." Diane finally faced us. The UV glow on her gloves looked like a villain origin story. "This is ridiculous," she said. "We have rules." The officer nodded. "You do. And then there's city code and state law. If you believe there's a violation, you send notice. You don't enter a fenced yard and remove property. That's not enforcement. That's theft." She started to object. He held up a hand. "We're not cuffing anybody today. We're documenting and we're giving advice. Stop." He took statements. He left a case card. He suggested we all use email. I like that man. The hearing and the loud. Quiet. 2 days later, we met in the clubhouse with a camcorder blinking the little red light of truth. I brought my binder. I also brought a small box with 2 items: the split decoy log, neon foam peeking like a smile, and a UV flashlight. Diane started. "Your unsightly pile behind a fence," I said, "has been a recurring complaint. We were tidying common areas." I slid the street photo across. "Not visible from the street." Another photo, the trail cam still with her hand on my stack. "In my yard," the property manager tried to reframe. "We can compromise by requiring you to move the rack elsewhere." The HOA attorney, who finally showed, cleared his throat. "We should talk about process." I clicked the UV light. The inside of the wheelbarrow in my photo glowed like a crime scene in a TV pilot. The room went quiet in that special weighty way. "Here's the deal," I said, calm. "You don't have to like Firewood. You can send a notice if you think a rack violates aesthetics, but you can't take it. Also, those logs?" I tapped the split decoy. "Decoys, fully cured foam, harmless. Not for burning. Please don't touch my things again." The attorney slid his glasses up. "We recommend rescinding the prior fines, returning the wood, and adopting a clear rule about wood storage, behind fences or screened, and a policy prohibiting volunteer entry into fenced yards." Diane clenched. "He set a trap." "It was a camera and a decoy," I said. "The only trap here is called consequences." When paper wins, they went into executive session. We waited in the hallway with stale coffee like extras in a courthouse movie. 10 minutes later, they came back with the only 3 sentences that matter. "We rescind the violations and fines. We will not enter fenced yards. We apologize for removing property." They also adopted a boring, beautiful policy. Firewood must be stored behind a fence or screened from street view. Seasonally allowed October-March in visible areas if neat and stacked on racks. Volunteers, darn bored, may not remove property or enter fenced, locked areas. Exterior inspections by appointment only. Community fire pit wood will be purchased, not collected from homes. The police closed their report with a friendly, "Call us if it happens again." It did not. Foam-free piece and a shed. I built a small firewood shed with a lattice front, matching paint, tidy as a church cookbook. The HOA approved it in 48 hours because apparently we all needed a nap. 2 weeks later, I dropped off a bundle of real wood at the clubhouse with a note. For shore nights. No foam, promise. Diane wasn't there. A new volunteer with a calm voice said, "Thank you." On Friday, we hosted our s'mores night. The neighbor kids fed bark to the fire like it was a dragon. Jerry asked if the famous Decoy log would make a guest appearance. I said no. We retired it. It lives in the garage now, a reminder that boundaries can be bright and still be kind. What neon foam taught a clipboard, don't escalate with danger. No traps, no harm. Keep it safe, legal, and boring. Cameras, signs, emails, and reports beat rage every time. Fences matter. A latch is a line. HOAs don't get magic keys to your yard. Process exists for a reason. If a rule is aesthetic, treat it like aesthetics. Notice, photos, a chance to fix, not wheelbarrows at dawn. Mark, don't maim. UV dye and decoys create. Receipts without risk. Cured, inert materials only, and never for burning. Fix the system. Clear storage rules and a no-entry policy prevent the next volunteer from mistaking zeal for authority. If you like stories where petty theft meets brighter boundaries, subscribe, drop a like, and tell me your wildest HOA. They took my stuff. Moment below. I'll bring the marshmallows. You bring the receipts.